What is your reaction to the latest CP3 belly flop, postseason style? So my take, you've got the President's Suite, C-Poop, and Scale. And we will tie all these things together and we'll make sense of it all. So we tip off with the fact that Chris Paul has added another glorious chapter to the cautionary tale, which is his basketball legacy. And it turns out that history does occasionally repeat itself. CP3 continues to remind those of you in the back of the room that aren't that bright that he is the most agonizing, most frustrating player in this generation of basketball guys. He will play well for roughly 95% of a game. Impressive numbers to the untrained eye. Chris Paul is everything you could want in a point guard. Everything. And then, in crunch time, a trap door opens up and he gets dropped into a pit of anacondas. And it has happened again. Attention to detail. That KOs CP3 as the point god transforms into the choke god in key moments. He has that brain fog that sets in. And in these NBA Finals, we had not one, but two signature moments that validate that reputation. The bonehead turnover in Game 4 with roughly 30 seconds on the clock. One-score game. Suns in possession. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Suns have the ball down by 2, chance to tie. All the pressure's on Milwaukee at that point. All of it. Bucks have to win. Otherwise, they are on their deathbed. And the Suns, you get a basket there, you tie it up, you put the pressure back on the Bucks, and Chris Paul, the savvy veteran, completely screwed up. Lost control of the dribble, turned the ball over, and we know what happened there. And then in Game 5, Chris Paul committed an ill-advised foul on the Greek Freak on that legendary alley-oop hammer dunk from Giannis Antetokounmpo. These are the type of plays that a seasoned veteran is not supposed to make. But he makes them all the time. And this series was standard operating procedure. You say, well, his final numbers were great. He did this, that, and the other thing. Okay. What about the clutch time in Game 4, Game 5? What about that? And when the going gets tough, what happens here is Chris Paul, he's done this his entire career. He contacts his travel agent to book a flight to Panic City. And he visits Panic City, and he already has reservations when he gets to Panic City because his travel agent has booked. He's booked the suite, the President's Suite, at the Heartbreak Hotel. Chris goes there quite often. Now, furthermore, not that I'm here to do a victory lap. I'm just a gas bag. But I tried to warn you. There's a few things I know about, and this is one of the things I know about. I tried to tell you. You said, no, it's the curse of the Bambino. Chris Paul's going to win the championship. Blah, 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 blah. Chris Paul, in big games, he essentially to the fan base, whatever fan base, he's played for multiple teams, whatever fan base he's got, he waterboards the fans. It's like waterboarding. You told me I was wrong. You said, well, no, it's the laundry. Well, it's because he was with the Clippers. That's why. But without the Clippers, he's good. Okay. Yeah, well, I didn't see any Clipper wardrobe. I didn't see that Clipper laundry that Chris Paul had on his back there. I saw a lot of Suns gear. Thought it would be different, right? Well, none of you gutless pukes will be heard from now. I know how this works. You're all cockroaches. You go crawling behind the refrigerator. And I don't blame you. Out of sight, out of mind. But let's not sugarcoat what Chris Paul has been able to accomplish. There's no need to sugarcoat. No need. Not in these parts. In other parts, they like to sugarcoat, soft pedal, that kind of thing. We don't. We believe in truth in broadcasting. And CP3 in the postseason is C-Poo. C-Poo. That's C-P-O-O.
Who?
Chris Party of One. Absolute poo. Chris Party of One. C-Poo. There are thousands of players. Let me explain what that means. There are thousands of players that have participated in the NBA since it began. Some of them good, some of them bad, all of them getting a check to play professional basketball. Chris Paul has become the first player in the history of that organization to lose not one, not two, not three, but 4 best-of-7 series in which his team had a 2-0 lead. Do you know how incompetent you have to be to blow a 2-0 lead in a series? Do you realize how bad that must be? I mean, it's a ride on the vomit comet. It's a ride on the vomit comet is what it is. So he's done it 4 times. He's written his name into the record books. Chris Paul has now blown a 2-0 lead. I just read this earlier. In every decade in the millennium. Every decade, Chris, in the millennium. He's good for that. And it's not just the Clippers. He did it with the Hornets. So don't give me it's the Clippers. He did it with the Hornets against the Spurs in 2008. We know what happened with the Clippers. The fateful 2013 Clippers and Grizzlies. 2016 Clippers and Trailblazers. And now we can add 2021 in Suns Laundry. 4 times every decade this millennium, Chris Paul has done it. The only other player with 3 best-of-7 series losses where their teams led 2-0 was the only player is Blake Griffin, and he did it with the Clippers, the aforementioned 2013-2016, but he also confirmed it's more about him than it is the Clippers because Griffin did it with Brooklyn against these same Milwaukee Bucks. All right, last point here. So this was Chris Paul's chance. It was his chance to complete the mission, to hit the bullseye. He had his thumb on the scale, and he ended up taking a pie right to the face, right to the schnozzle. He took a pie. Everything was set up. The path of least resistance. Jamal Murray down for the count for the Nuggets. Anthony Davis, always hurt for the Lakers. Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka, both out, and the Clippers still took the Suns to 6 games. All those guys down and for the count and out, hanging in the injury tent, and you had the NBA media tickling and licking. They were tickling and licking Chris Paul's toes, both at the same time. It was nauseating. And now they've turned into fanboys and cheerleaders, and they've been doing this the entire postseason. It was his postseason, rah rah. But in the end, it turned out that while at the beginning it was the path of least resistance, in the end there was a booby trap. And Giannis Antetokounmpo failed to follow the script, the feel-good chicken soup for the soul story of Chris Paul finally winning. I saw Scott Foster there. Good job by Scott Foster. He's the closer for the NBA. Good job by him. But we can play the ifs and buts game. If only the Greek Freak hadn't gotten healthy, then Chris Paul would be celebrating a championship instead of being the bridesmaid. And that sound you heard, and I heard it, I don't know if you heard it, not that long ago before we came on the air here, was the window slamming, the window closing. Chris Paul is a 36-year-old point guard. I'd love to see him with the Lakers. They need another old guy. I think that would be a great story. I'd love to see Chris Paul go to the Lakers. He's still got a residence in L.A. Why not? Go to the Lakers. Boy, that would make my heart just melt to see that, to see his final years side by side with LeBron. But the odds of every team having a major injury clearing the road are slim and none has left the building, right? And for the Suns in general, it's turn out the lights, the party's over. Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, whoo-wee, overrated. Now, we expect this to be a one-shot deal for the Suns. The planets lined up, as we said. Good luck having that happen again. It's a fluke. Lightning does not strike in the same place twice. It just doesn't in sports. So good luck on that. And now the media will make all the excuses in the world for Chris Paul. I imagine in the next couple of days there'll be a story coming out that he battled through an injury, overcame adversity. That's the number one go-to excuse. No accountability. It's not his fault he turned the ball over and gave the game to the Bucks in one of those games in Milwaukee because he had a nagging injury. But he didn't want anyone to know about it, right? Because that's a good excuse. That's a good, solid excuse. Anyway, let's hear from some of the participants here on the Bucks side of things. The better story in the losing locker room. Monty Williams, the coach of the Suns, pointing out that opportunity was knocking at the Suns' door, and they chose not to answer.
The fourth quarter, I mean, it's pretty evident we just couldn't score enough. We had opportunities, a lot of shots in and out. I thought our transition offense tonight, and just we couldn't convert. We had a number of opportunities to, get a layup, get a three, and we just, couldn't do it. And it hurt our defense. Our defense was really good tonight. If you look at what Giannis did, you'd be like, but the rest of the team, they had 105 points. We shot 6 for 25 from three.
Well, Monty did not want to name the guilty parties in the fourth quarter, but the guilty parties are Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton, and Devin Booker in particular, who collectively took 13 shots and in the fourth quarter made 4 of them, 4 of 13 in crunch time. So he didn't name them. We'll name them. We're okay naming them. Now, Monty Williams continuing to dance the dance with Chris Paul.
Guys like Chris who've had these unreal careers, and yet they get penalized because they haven't won a title. That was my goal, was to win it for him and Book. Those guys have carried us all year long. And Chris is my second time coaching him. I know what he puts into his craft. I know the dedication. And so when I hear those sentiments about his career because he hasn't won a championship, it's just silly.
I'm going to disagree. Everyone knows the rules. Everyone knows the rules, and that's part of the equation. Now, listen, you can have a great career. To me, the greatest power forward is Karl Malone of all time. He never won a championship. But that's a criticism. The Utah Jazz has some great teams in that era. I loved watching Charles Barkley as a player back in the day. I love him more on TV, but Barkley was a great player. They didn't win. But that's part of it. It's the last thing that you look at when you get in the Hall of Fame. Chris Paul's going to the Hall of Fame, but Muffet McGraw's in the Hall of Fame. But to say it's not a fair criticism, I'm going to disagree on that. It is a legitimate criticism, and everyone knows the stakes. It's not like they pulled this out of a hat somewhere and said, surprise, Chris, or surprise, Monty. No, it's not. That's how it works. Chris Paul, we've had a lot of these speeches after he gags in the postseason. His teams gag in the postseason. Here's Chris Paul pointing out that there is no consolation prize.
Ain't no moral victories or whatnot. We sort of saw what it takes to get there, and, hopefully we see what it takes to get, past that.
All right. Now, here's a bombshell. Chris Paul, is he going to announce his retirement? Did he announce his retirement from the NBA? Let's find out.
Knowing that for so long you worked to get to this point.
So
is
long.
Is there any solace in, hey, I've had this experience,
no,
and I can learn from it, and I might get back here?
I mean, it'll take a while to process this or whatnot, but it's the same mentality. Get back to work. You know what I mean? I ain't retiring, if that's what you're asking. That's out. So, back to work.
Well, he said that's out. But if the Suns had won, if Giannis had continued to be hurt, that's the only way the Suns would have won. That's their secret, is for the other team's best player. The secret sauce is for the other team's best player to get hurt. Giannis came back and was fine. So if Giannis had not come back, would that mean that Chris Paul would have announced his retirement and said, bye-bye, everybody, I'm out of here? Inquiring minds would like to know.